it's a lot of good stuff. Fascinating world, really, really fascinating. I think as somebody to kind of wrap us up, I'd love to get your vision of the future. Say if we're looking at, 2 to 4 years out, 5G is here. We have talked about this for sure, but I'd love to get some further thoughts, like the future of edge computing. What's going to look like, 2 to 4, even 5 years out, if you can actually gaze in your crystal ball that long. What is the
Hmm.
future of edge computing?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I think edge might also be a real enabler to autonomy, whether that's autonomous vehicles, autonomous drones. I think once we get real low latency compute out to the edge on edge compute, it's going to enable certainly autonomy. It's going to enable better AI and ML, artificial intelligence and machine learning, because again, you're going to have more
Right.
compute resources available out. I also think it's going to do a great thing for just sensors on power grids and pipelines, just kind of protecting the national infrastructure.
Hmm.
There's a lot of talk about, being able to add a lot more sensors to our pipeline infrastructure in this country, our rail infrastructure in this country, telecommunications infrastructure,
Hmm.
and being able to have edge compute, I think is going to help secure that better. And another discussion on why that is. So I certainly think autonomy, security, and then the world of IoT and securing the world of IoT.
Hmm.
There's going to be a lot of new things that are enabled by edge in those areas for sure. And then last but not least, 5G. 5G doesn't work without edge,
Right.
and we all want 5G. We all want faster phones. We all want better experience on our devices. That just doesn't work without edge. So I'd probably leave it there on those.
It's interesting you mentioned artificial intelligence and machine learning. Because those technologies rely on models getting constant input and models getting trained, again and again and again. So the AI model increases. Seems like the
Hmm.
edge devices do a far better job, do a good job of creating more real-time input, so those models can be more rapidly, trained. So it seems like edge computing and AI are going to have a real future together.
Oh yeah, great point. Great point. We've even done some proof of concepts and some studies to try to see what decisions or what intelligence can an edge device do before it needs to phone home up to the big compute up at the cloud. And you
Right.
start to realize that with some training, edge devices can become pretty self-sufficient and can
Right.
maybe make some decisions on, let's say, the 80% of the use cases, and then only phone home for the 20% that it can't figure out. So
Hmm.
that enables a bunch of things. Like when you go to the airport and you're doing facial recognition, for example, to check in the plane.
Hmm.
That's an edge use case, right? It's
Hmm.
identifying you super quickly. It's not phoning home. It's doing it right there, right at the gate, so
Right.
that it can identify you and then send you on your way. That's one example of edge doing what could be a very compute intensive process, right? Facial
Hmm. Hmm.
recognition could be very intensive, but you can
Right.
do most of it at the edge. And if it can't quite match, okay, let's phone home. Let's figure out, is this Brian or is this someone else?
Hmm.
But that's, one example. Edge can really help enable even those types of, if you want to call that AI, but that's one example.
Hmm. Brian, I think you've really said it. It's a lot of good stuff. I definitely learned something. Thank you very much for sharing your expertise today.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. I appreciate it.
I hope we talk again sometime. I think I have so many thoughts. I have many more questions, but I think we're done today. But a lot of good stuff. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, James. I appreciate
All
your
right.
time.